So it is actually made up of wave or it is made up of particles. So the thing and the question arises over here is that what is actually the necessity of studying that what actually life is made up of wave or particle. We are just living our life but very much of with facility. What is actually the need of understanding this? What actually life is made up of? So the thing is that it's really important to understand what actually life is made up of. Because the moment you really understand that what actually life is made up of, then you would be just flourishing out of curiosity that okay, this was the thing because of what we were actually needed to study about what actually life is made up of. So in our classrooms, in our class, what this chapter is very basically repeated so many times. What happens is that we studied it in our so many classes, like in 2, 3, 4 classes up to 7 to 12 we studied about what actually light is. But the thing is that so many students just get not actually get that what actually light is, and they just keep on just revising, just keep on just studying things like okay, these are the things, this is in our syllabus, then we must be studying this and all those kinds of stuff. They study like that and they just somehow also do some good things also. But the thing is that we really needed to understand that what actually light is and what actually is made up of. So the thing, let's not get over here that what actually light is made up of on a wave or particle, but let's get somewhere which is very important, which is very important. Okay. So in very previously, so many scientists were discovering that what we are actually made up of. So the thing is that when we were very like in early human beings, then we just evolved over here, and then we just got over here, and then we are just doing things for ourselves. But the thing is that when nothing was just happening, when there was discoveries were happening, so many discoveries were happening, we were not getting familiar with all those kinds of things and all those things. Then what was happening that firstly it was discovered, firstly it was asked that what is actually, so it was just asked that what we are actually made up of. So it was asked that what we are actually made up of, because in very previous scientists were discovering, studying about so many things, like they were studying about matters, they were studying about solid, liquids and gases, and they just got a very much idea about all those things. So they just got to know about solids also, they just got to know about liquids also, very much of liquids also, and they just got to know about gases also, very much of them. But they were also studying about some matters also. So they just study about some matters also, and they just got a very basic curiosity that what actually light is, because light is not seeming as to be a matter, and we are very familiar with what actually matter is. And so getting to the very basic definition of what actually matter is, then we know that matter is something which is having some mass, which will occupy some space, and it will be having some kind of properties, it will be having density, and it would be showing all those kinds of properties. Okay, so that was actually the matter, it was actually stated as to be. But now the curiosity for most of them arises when they really wanted to know that what actually light is made up of, because we were very familiar with solids, liquids and gases. They were actually having some kinds of atoms inside them. So firstly it was discovered that what actually was the atom. So firstly it was discovered that what actually atom was, and firstly it was said by the Dalton. Dalton was a very famous physicist who said that okay, atom is something which is the very fundamentalist part of the anything. So this was considered as to be the fundamental of anything. Okay, whatever matter we are seeing around us is actually having in its state because of its atom, because this is the fundamental thing. Later on it was also getting more further, then we just got to know about that atom is furthermore divisible by the inside it, this is nucleus, and outer of it, this is the electron moving around it. According to the Niels Bohr, he stated that okay, atom is like something like this. It is the fundamental part, but inside this also, it is also divided into the electron, proton plus neutron, which is actually the nucleus. Okay, so it was also said by the Niels Bohr that proton plus neutron is actually the nucleus. Okay, so but it was actually later on believed that okay, this is actually the reasons why we are studying about those electron, proton, and all those kinds of things. We get very much familiar with all those kinds of things, solid, liquid, and gases and everything. But the questions comes over here that what actually light was, because every one of us is seeing light, from sun, light is coming to us, and then they got the curiosity to know that okay, what actually light is made of? Is it a matter? Is it a liquid? Is it a gas? So light was something like it was not a solid, and neither it is a liquid, and neither it is a gas. Gas having some another kind of properties that it would be somewhat visible, and somewhat if it is not visible, then it would be also having some atoms and all those kinds of things. But when they just got familiar with light, then they just get very confused that what actually light is made up of. They just got to know. Then they just got to know that what actually light was made up of. Then they just started thinking that okay, what actually light is. Then every one of them started asking that okay, what actually light is made up of? We are seeing sun, the rays are coming to us, and then but what actually it is made up of? Then from there actually comes the theory of this is understanding what actually light is made up of and what is light. So firstly, it was given by the first definition, which was given by the Newton was already studying about what actually light is, because he was experimented on so many things, like he was experimenting on so many things like laws of motion and so many things, and then he also studied got to know that okay, we also need to know about light, and he just discovered about all the spectrum of light. We are very familiar with it, like whenever any kind of light is coming out of any prism, then it is getting divided into 7 parts, 7 components, which was given by Webber. Then he was actually studying about everything, but he just said that actually what is light? Light is actually a form of energy. He don't say that it is a Newton knows that it is actually a solid, it is actually a liquid, and it is actually a gas, because he said that it is actually a form of energy, which is not which is a form of light is a form of energy, and this is how we are very familiar with energy. That energy is something which is never created and never destroyed. So the question arises over here that okay, light is something which is having somewhere which is never created. It is a form of energy which would be not destroyed and which would be not created. Then we say that actually it is of particle, because Newton don't do any kind of experiment, and he just said that it would be having of a particle, and wave-like thing was not very familiar with them. So, but another scientist come, there was a very conflicting things about that. What actually light is made of? Then Huygens comes and said that according to Huygens, he said that light is actually a wave, because he just done an experiment on which it was showing that actually light is behaving as a wave, and wave is something which is having no mass, which is having no kind of which would be not showing any kind of properties and all those kinds of things, which would be like this. So he said that Huygens said that it is actually of wave nature, but it was not actually believed by the people, because at that time Newton was considered as to be one of the famous scientists at that time, and Huygens was not that much famous, so he was not considered. His theory was not even considered that okay, it is actually a wave. But later on, so many discoveries keeps on going. Then in in the very later, one of more famous scientists come, Einstein came, and then he do the famous photoelectric effect. Then when he do the photoelectric effect, he just got to know that okay, actually light was behaving as a wave and particle both, because when we done some experiment photoelectric effect, that means he just gave some photon to the in the form of an